Welcome back to the Charismatic Voice. Y'all have been requesting an analysis of Radiohead for years, but I haven't done one because I'm actually very familiar with Radiohead. My favorite album is OK Computer, and my favorite song, which is not on that album, is Fake Plastic Trees. And I have a husband entering. What are you entering for? You're like... I hope you come bearing gifts. I was like thinking I was about ready for a little extra refreshment. Do you know what? This is great timing because I'm going to cheers to all you who have been requesting Radiohead. That shows that you have excellent tastes. And while this isn't going to be a first time reaction, what we're going to do is ooze over Thom Yorke's voice and persuade anyone who hasn't ever heard Radiohead that they absolutely need to love them. Cheers. Let's get to it. Ooh. Thank you.
When you were here before, couldn't look you in the eye. You're just like an angel. Your skin makes me cry.
Want y'all to know, I specifically picked the acoustic version. I've heard lots of versions of this song. This one is my favorite. I know some of you all are going to be like, no, the studio album. I like this one better. I like his vocals in this one better. The thing about Thom Yorke's vocals that I think just gets me the most is they always, the absolute purity of emotion makes me want to cry. It just breaks my heart. Like, it might have something to do with the fact that I was also introduced to Radiohead by first guy that ever broke my heart. So, I think there's some emotions that go back to those teenage years that they come back to us. I don't listen to Radiohead now and think about that past necessarily, but I think that the emotions are still there and so palpable. Thom Yorke's voice breaks my heart. It's the pure emotion of it. I also like this acoustic version because it's just a tad slower. I feel that it leaves more room for that vocal expression.
When you were here before, couldn't look you in the eye. You're just like an angel. Your skin makes me cry. Float like a feather in a beautiful world, and wish I was special. You're so very special.
I like that dip there.
And I'm a creep.
All right, we're going to go back a little bit and talk about a few moments here. Just wanted to let us start to get into the chorus a tiny bit. He navigates head voice and falsetto so perfectly. I don't know if he ever thinks about the technicality of it. It just feels to me when he sings like he's so beyond even thinking of that. It feels like he's just channeling emotion through his voice. But technically, there's this shift that is happening back and forth where there's a lot more CT, cricothyroid engagement, or TA, thyroidinoid engagement. I didn't know about this in high school, by the way. As I've grown older and learned more about voice, I have become more and more impressed with Thom Yorke's voice. Just incredible. It's I put him in the same vein as Jeff Buckley. Of just this, oh my gosh, this singer is like the embodiment of emotion in voice. Wow. So when you have a sound that is a lot more ethereal, that's often going to be in a more CT, cricothyroid dominant sound. Sometimes we'll call that falsetto. Sometimes if we're talking about registers in a different way, we might call that second register. Some people might even call it third. It kind of depends on what school you're coming from. But what you need to know is this lighter register, this sort of lighter ethereal voice, it has a different set of muscles that is dominant in the sound than the part that's heavier. And it's that switch back and forth that is so fluid in his sound. He can make it really fluid, or he can actually use it to make it feel really painful. It's just masterfully done. I'll point out where some of the switching happens, going back again. So this is that very light CT dominant sound.
You're just like an angel.
It's so fluffy and pure. Right, doesn't that just break your heart? It breaks mine.
Float like a feather
And he started to dip in there.
in a beautiful world.
And we're getting more T engagement here.
And wish I was
Definitely in that lower register there, but it's going over the same pitches.
You're so very special.
And the way he dips down there, and I love that with his voice, even though you have this incredibly pure tone that it's basing off of, it is often just a tiny bit sloppy with the pitches. It's like, it does not want to be perfect. I think when he just wants to be perfect in the pitches, like in the first intro here, like, he's perfect. But as more emotion comes in, and often Radiohead is exploring what many of us would describe as a really ugly emotion. He's not choosing to express an ugly emotion in perfect pitches because it doesn't fit, at least not in this style. And I think that is incredible. I think that's partly why this gets to me so much. I feel that it's a beautiful expression of human emotion. Back one more time.
Float like a feather
I love that slide on feather.
in a beautiful world. And wish I was special.
And it feels so personal.
You're so very special. And I'm a creep. I'm a widow. What the hell am I doing here? I don't belong here.
I think it's not surprising that even back then, I preferred an acoustic version of this because I've always been obsessed with how a voice sounds. I've been really focused on vocal expression my entire life. And, only recently did I actually start exploring the rock genre. I had this introduction to just a couple of rock groups, Radiohead, Jeff Buckley, Coldplay, a little bit of Muse in there. And that was, again, from this, it's actually a couple ex-boyfriends. They were friends. Let's not talk too much about that. Anyhow, they introduced me to some of this music, and I remember really loving it, and it continued to follow me into adulthood. But I never got into rock beyond that, especially not classic rock or metal. And that's this whole field I've been discovering through this channel, through you and your suggestions. The crazy thing to me now especially recently. I had no idea how similar Thom Yorke's vocal technique with enunciation was to grunge. And that makes total sense. It was the same time period, but I was totally unaware of grunge at that time. There's something very much adjacent, and I'm going to explore that a little bit more here. That's actually a great example. So when I've seen videos of Thom Yorke singing, a lot of times his mouth is a little more closed than, say, I'm just going to use an example of another band I just recently was listening to music of, Powerwolf. If you think about Attila or Karsten, he has that operatic training, has brought it into metal. Lots of very open mouth, very enunciated, very almost dramatic enunciation. Grunge fought against that and said, no, this is so much more personal. It is it's inner, and it's also tends to be not the pretty or dramatic stuff out here. It tends to be ugly inner stuff that we're struggling through, which really goes well with teenage angst, I must say. So weirdo in this case. Weirdo. If I was singing that operatically, I'd be obsessed over where my diphthongs were, how exactly to place that R. Weirdo. Right? I'd be thinking about all of these transitions between the vowels, the fact that there's an oo that actually happens before the w. Weirdo. Right? How hard to hit that D, D. Do I really want to get that enunciated over an orchestra, or am I going to a mic? With grunge, everything is a lot smaller in the enunciation, and it feels, I think it just feels so much more casual and like you're listening to a friend, or maybe listening to this inner voice bubbling up inside of you that is like barely eking by to be heard with this secret. You can tell that enunciation's very small. Nasal too. And that little bit of vibrato there at the end, his vibrato always, it's interesting. It doesn't usually feel very regular. It feels almost like tremulous. Like there's, again, there's a lot, I think, of like fear and angst that's built up inside, as if somebody's afraid to let go, let out, and just be who they are. I don't belong here. I don't care if it hurts. I know I'm pausing a ton, but like moments like that, how do you not just have tears pop into your eyes? I don't know. Maybe, again, I have such a strong emotional connection to this from early in life. But the way he sings Hurts there, this man unlocked the straight line from emotion to voice. It's so cool. Our emotional processing center and the nerve that runs between that and then down into the larynx and the vocal folds, it goes to the same place here, branches into the larynx. So there is this incredible connection between our emotions and our voice. But some people are able to access that more than others. I don't know if I've ever heard somebody access that as clearly, brilliantly, consistently as Thom Yorke. It's shocking. I don't belong here. I don't care if it hurts. I want to have control. I want a perfect body. I want a perfect soul. You to notice when I'm not around. You're so very special.
wish I was special.
Oh, I just realized I didn't never notice before. I think he actually uses a little bit of a false fold engagement in there. Oh, it's fun. I hadn't noticed that. Because I've gotten more into that just recently. So, new discoveries today. I love it. Oh, this section, he has so much intensity throughout. This is also Thom Yorke. Like, I don't think I've ever heard him sing without intensity. I would compare him to Maynard in Tool with how much intensity is always present in the vocal line. It can be very quiet, yet very, very intense. You hear that intensity continue through this whole section in the way that he uses different consonants to close and then breathes in often through his teeth. It's just, you can hear that want and desire is pouring out so much beyond the words. Let's go back a little bit more. That vibrato is wonderful.
When I'm not around.
I love the extra intensity there and that breath. Again with the breath.
I wish I was special.
This voice is just so incredible, so full of expression. Can go from pure heartbreaking to pain, ugly, right? It's just, wow. And the whole time, I think he's a beautiful, incredible artist. I'm going to go back one more time. There's one other thing I wanted to point out in this section. Oh.
Don't care if it hurts. I wanna have control. I want a perfect body.
So these lyrics in this section, I always remember particularly relating to as a teenager. It's true that I relate to them still as an adult, but I feel less of that drive that I have to have what somebody else has described as perfect. And I feel more secure in just being me now. But, oh man, I think it feels palpable, that desire and the need, especially as a teenager, to have control of your life. You're like, I can exert this. There was this feeling of I can conquer the world. I can make this world anything I want it to be. Right? I can control every single detail. Oh, and then also, I think there is so much surrounding body image that is super broken, but is very prevalent especially in young people's minds. I just remember that being such a focus. I was like, geez, these words, they hit me perfectly then, and now I just feel them.
I wanna have control. I want a perfect body. I want a perfect soul.
I love the switch in the timbre there. Again, playing perfectly with TA or CT dominant sounds.
You're so very special. I wish I was special, but I'm a creep. I'm a widow. What the hell am I doing here when I don't belong here? Whoa, whoa, cheese.
we're going to get to that. Let's talk about, gosh, where to start? I told you guys, I really, really love Thom Yorke's voice. He also has some awesome piano things. Yeah, I really love it. And I think Creep is probably their most famous song. It's certainly covered the most. But if you haven't gotten into Radiohead before, go exploring. They have incredible usage of time signatures in some of their songs, which I've always really appreciated. But Fake Plastic Trees, like I mentioned earlier, just makes me weep inside. High and Dry does too, no surprises. Maybe I'm into the sad teenager angsty songs. I think the words here are partly why people relate to this song so much and why it's covered a lot, and as it should be. I've heard amazing choral versions. I've heard amazing solo versions. PMJ has a great version. Like, there's so many great covers of this song, but none of them will ever be as good for me as Thom Yorke singing it. But I think the words here are just so relatable to humans throughout life. Everyone at some point feels like an outsider. They feel like they don't belong here. But by writing these lyrics, I'm a creep, I'm a weirdo, and then saying, I don't belong here, so many people related to those lyrics that I think it created this incredible feeling in society, or definitely within groups that are, or fans that are really into this song, that everyone felt like they didn't belong here, and suddenly there was belonging in not feeling like they belonged. It was this beautiful way of acknowledging so many different people and celebrating the differences and saying, I love that instead of feeling isolated by loving this song and relating to the lyrics, you feel like you're actually part of something bigger. I don't think that was the intention when they made it, but that's been one of the greatest effects of it. I love the way his voice breaks there. So just so you know, a voice break like that, we would normally seek to not do. And we would normally seek to not have really loud inhalations. He's breaking so many rules in the best of ways. But I'm a creep. I'm a widow. What the like that. When I don't belong here. So this huge inhalation that actually becomes even a bit of pitch at the end, that reminds me of really ugly crying. You know, the kind where you're sobbing so hard that you hear when you breathe in because your throat is so constricted. And I think it's brilliant to get to that level in this song. The emotions are just so intense. Right there. When I don't belong here. Whoa, whoa, That's, for me, the best part of the song is when we get to that super incredible high falsetto, and then you just, as he's going up in Run, 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 he's back in that head voice, or we'll call it the TA dominant sound, head voice, the falsetto, the CT dominant sound. And the way that he's letting it be ugly between these different emotions and between the switches of that is great, but it's still it's it feels like it's on the verge of losing control, yet is very controlled the whole time. It's just so gorgeous. But I think that when he gets up there, in that falsetto especially, it's haunting. Haunting. I get shivers every time. I seriously, like I got extra goosebumps right now. I've heard this song so many times. Wow. So pure. His voice almost falls apart there, and then he brings it back together. Ugh. Again, almost falls apart.
Whatever makes you happy, whatever you want.
There's also, at this part, I've always felt that there's a sense of like losing yourself and longing for someone else. I romanticized this so much when I was younger. I think I've, I actually think that was probably what went really wrong in some of my earlier relationships in life, / most of my relationships in life, this romanticizing of losing yourself in someone else. I would much rather partner with somebody to grow every day and yes, have moments where you can get lost with them, but partner and just become better people all the time together. Hey, and have amazing mocktails too. Just saying, this is good. I'm curious. Did you all, especially if you've been recommending this, did you have similar experiences like that? When did you fall in love with Radiohead and Thom Yorke? I want to know about your experiences, because mine are so vivid and real still. And I feel like while that might just be indicative of so many of the memories of that time, and then also, gosh, later in life, this has continued to follow me for so many years. I also think that it was enlivened the whole time by Thom Yorke and Radiohead. And that's one of the beautiful things about incredible musicians is it isn't just a memory of a time period of an event, but it's rather the fact that it really makes everything come alive from then. Anyhow, I don't know. That's hard to put into words. Do you understand? Do you get me? Like, do you have memories like this surrounding Radiohead as well? I'll go back a little bit.
Whatever makes you happy.
I am amazed by the pure air ethereal he brings it back to there.
You're so very special.
So beautiful.
I wish I was special.
And then daring to just whisper that. It's one of the reasons I like acoustic too so much. Yeah.
I'm a widow. What the hell am I doing here? I don't belong here.
That little, so much of the time in this outro, he's had no vibrato. And then I don't belong here. There's just a slight tremble that enters. That's a really good example of him allowing that vibrato to come through and just show this incredibly timid, fearful emotion.
I don't belong here.
Right there.
I don't belong here.
I love the major shift at the end there. Thank you for continually asking for Radiohead and Thom Yorke so I could just ooze and ahs about how wonderfully emotive his voice is. If you want some more emotive analysis, you can check out this playlist over here. And may you fall more in love with music every day.